tour guide for today. Let's go, Brianna.
All right, welcome to Cheshire Hall Plantation. This is an old loyalist slave cotton plantation that was built over 200 years ago and found right here on Providencia Isles. Come this way. This old cotton slave plantation was built over 200 years ago by the slaves that were brought from the Carolinas by Thomas Stubbs. Now, Thomas Stubbs is one of the original loyalists, and him and his brother Wade Stubbs came to the Turks and Caicos Islands in sight of finding fortune. Now, they were originally from England, Cheshire specifically of northwest England, and they lived in the United States, and after the Revolutionary War, they did decide to stay loyal to the crown, and then they were forced out of the United States, so they trickled their way down to Florida, the Bahamas, and which then included the Turks and Caicos Islands. So Thomas Stubbs built this plantation, Cheshire Hall, on Providencia Isles, while his brother Wade Stubbs built over Wade's Grand Plantation, once known as Belfield, in the island of North Caicos. All right, so we're just going to take a look and take a nice look around of what we have here on this plantation. Here are the original walls that the slaves built up. Now these here were also known as property boundaries around the plantation. Okay. If you take a look around, you can see some of the vegetation that we have here, a lot of which is native, and a lot of these were actually used for medicinal purposes and healing different ailments such as high blood pressure, sugar, diabetes. Now, this plantation originally consisted of 5,000 acres, which would include the main house, the slave cabin, kitchen, and of course the cotton itself. Okay, now the cotton itself that is here in the Turks and Caicos Islands is known as Sea Island cotton.
So, are we able? Is the public able to carry any of the medicinal plants with them, or pieces of the plants with them? Are they allowed to take anything?
Inside of this plantation, no.
Okay.
Because it is a protected area, we want to make sure that whatever is found in the plantation stays in the plantation. But we do want to encourage the use of medicinal herbs, but through education. So then they can go out and search around the island for these different herbs, but not specifically removing it from
From
this
the
plantation.
plantation. I got you.
We're going to make our way over to the well, which was their main source of water here on the plantation. That was actually manually dug by slaves. That, along with the many structures that we have on this plantation, would have been built up from limestone rock. Back in the day, there wasn't so much material being imported for infrastructure, and so they improvised. They were very intelligent people, and so they used conch shells. They actually burned the conch shells, and that would make what many call quicklime or just lime, and it would be like a concrete mixture for them in terms of helping to put these structures together. So now we're just going to have a look at the well.
So, does this have a lot of water, or there's a
At the
time?
moment, no.
No.
And it's actually pretty deep. It's 27 to 30 feet deep.
Does it?
So sometimes you see a little bit of water coming
Yeah, I
up,
see it
but
has
not
a little
much.
bit of water, but it doesn't have much, right? Okay. So everything on this plantation is original.
We actually have two replicas
Okay.
of the slave cabin, one of the slave cabin and one of the kitchen.
Okay.
In the 1800s, there was a great hurricane, and that basically damaged a lot of the structures that was actually here on the plantation.
Right.
Considering that we have 5,000 acres and only very little of that 5,000 acres is left, so a lot of it would have been cleared through the damage of the storm.
Okay.
In here, we have a few of the items they use to prepare some of their meals. This would just be like a preparation spot for them. Here you have one of the pots that they'd use. This was actually made from a metal buoy off of the boat. So you can tell that they were very skilled people in terms of getting everything that they needed.
So this was used as a stove.
Yes. So this was their pot, and then they'd light a fire, and they'd also use just charcoal. And over here you have some of the remains that were found here on the plantation. Some of this would have come from a lot of more developed areas that we would have done trades with or would have sold cotton to, for example, first world countries like the United States and England and those sorts of things. And you can actually see the details on them and tell that they were well crafted.
This is metal?
This one
heavy.
here, this was pottery.
Pottery. Heavy.
And even here in the Turks and Caicos, North and Middle Caicos specifically, up until this day, you have a lot of people that make a lot of pottery, and we'll be able to show you that a little bit later.
Wow.
All right, and here is where they'll grind up the dry corn. A lot of people know that in North Caicos, you can still find people that actually make corn, and so this is one of the ways of how they did it back in the day, and also turning that into cornmeal as well.
Right.
So this is what they use. Okay. Now we're gonna head into the slave cabin. Despite this plantation being 5,000 acres at the time, you would still find a slave cabin about this size housing several families. So these are sandals. We call them wampers. This is what they would have worn on the plantation. This is the sewing machine. When they did receive fabric from time to time, they did some sewing. They're very skilled people. And we see a flat ironing comb. Now they're really skilled people. They did manage to flat iron their hair. And then we have scissors. At the time, we've noted, and even up to recent years, we've noted people straightening their hairs, and that was because they weren't really allowed to express wearing their actual natural coily hair, and so they straightened it. And because we didn't have electricity back then, they used charcoal. So what they'd actually do is heat it up with charcoal, just as how many individuals in the last 50 or so years will place a flat ironing comb like this onto the stove. So they'll place it onto charcoal instead. And similar like to what they do with their irons. So here you have just one of their irons. Now that one there would be put directly onto the charcoal to heat it. And this one here is actually a lot better. And what they do instead is place the charcoal inside of this.
Right.
Not only would it allow them for a cleaner press, but it lasts a longer time because they're able to put a lot more charcoal inside.
But this here, once you heat the iron, the handle will get hot as well. Wonder how they manage that.
They were very so we believe they might have used some cloth, put it around that.
I'm sure they know.
Yes, they did. Now here in Providenciales, on the cotton plantation, they did do some farming. It might have not been as much as you would be able to do in North Caicos just because of the soil quality itself. And so they'd plant stuff like bell nip peppers, lemongrass, basil, and those sorts of things. So it was a lot of herbs that they planted on the plantation versus North Caicos, which you get your corns, your yams, cassavas, and just that general richness in vegetation. And so you look around here, and it's pretty much a forested area. As well as on this plantation, you can find the cotton. You can also find a lot of migratory birds that pass through here each year. And it's also a habitat for the resident birds that we have here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So walking around, you can actually see some warblers, banana quits, green herons, and so on, because this is just generally a rich area and you'd be able to find a lot. So